I love it because that is people excited about comics, and it's excited about, to be a retailer for just a minute. The excitement is something that is for an extended thing. Like, it's not just for a one moment instance where we might not see them again for another 2 years, but for a 12-week run of comics that will then launch a line of books.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep bringing comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Dal, I believe this is episode number 431 of Contest of Challengers. And while some episodes in the past haven't necessarily been really that businessy for what we call a comics industry business podcast, this one, however, I feel is going to really push that business aspect to the forefront.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about publishing. We're going to talk a lot about numbers. We're going to talk a lot about how angry comics retail can make us. Like, what is the absolute angriest we can get without there being a violent altercation within the store? Like, what's one step down from that? And we'll talk about what that level feels like.
Sure. But I feel like, we're coming up on our 3rd anniversary of being part of the Yak Channel.
Happy anniversary, Yak Channel.
And we're coming very close, and by that I mean we're a little less than 2 months away from our 10th anniversary of this podcast.
Crazy.
So I think it's time that we change things up.
Shut it all down.
When you say all...
Shut it all down.
I think it's time to really... sometimes I don't know that we're putting our best, voice forward, if you will,
okay.
if I can turn that phrase.
Just once.
I think that what we need to do is really up our involvement so the listeners get the most out of this. So my suggestion moving forward is we do this podcast while puppies crawl all over us.
I would be up for that.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll be supplying the puppies, I see.
Well, no. The listeners will. That's the whole point. We want to be more interactive.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so the listeners get us puppies.
Oh.
Not dogs.
Yeah, just puppies.
Puppies.
And just for the podcast. Like, I'm not taking care of them afterwards.
Right.
I'm not owning them. While recording, I would like to be surrounded by puppies.
Surrounded by or covered in?
Both.
Sure. Now, would you be in a pen with them, or would they just be here in the studio? There's a lot of volatile electronic equipment here that, as we've learned in the past, if it gets peed on,
sure,
things happen.
The way I envision it...
Do you want Braun Strowman to be ambulanced away again because of a sparking fire?
For any reason.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, just in general. The way I envision the recording process going forward is slightly large inflatable kiddie pool filled with puppies. You and I, on opposite ends, enter the doggy pool, record a podcast within there, and then exit said pool while someone else removes the dogs, removes the puppies, makes sure they're cared for and returned to their own homes and kennels and what have you. Then the large plastic waiting pool is destroyed. The end. And then the process is repeated for the next episode.
So it's a new...
Has to be a new pool.
Kiddie pool.
Yeah.
I know we're saying kitty, but it sounds like kitty. Kitty, so we should say puppy.
Okay, sure.
Puppy pool.
Okay, sure.
It's a new puppy pool each time.
Yeah.
And in this scenario, the puppies never leave the pool.
No, the puppies, well, for the recording process, they don't leave.
Right, that's the point.
But once the recording is done, they're removed from the pool.
And obviously we will upgrade our equipment a little bit so it's a little more sensitive so you can hear the wagging of tails, the panting of tongues.
Yeah, I think we'd probably
the licking of faces
with a multi-microphone board.
Yeah.
Because you want to have, we would be mic'd.
Sure.
But then you want the ambient noise of the pool on a separate
we don't want the
series of
puppies
microphones.
mic'd, but we want them to be able to be heard.
You put a couple, boom mics or whatever sort of around the area, and then you and I are individually mic'd.
Sure. Yeah, so that'll be moving forward once we get into our 11th year of doing this podcast.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Way more than I'm looking forward to this episode.
So today was a day, and we're starting with this as you knew we were going to.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when I mentioned to you that we'd be recording tonight, you had asked if you could be absent for the first half.
Well, first half hour.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know how long
first
this
half.
is going to run. We got a lot of ground to cover.
I don't know. I feel like it might be short.
But I thought half an hour is about the amount of time you would need to excise your ill will from the process.
I think you may have a misconception about what this is going to be.
Okay.
But the only way to dispel that would be to jump right
Let's
in.
just do this thing.
And today we are recording on Wednesday, July 3rd.
Yeah, holiday weekend, so we got to record a little earlier.
Sure. But, yeah, there are things coming up that'll cause delays.
Mm-hmm.
G1 tournament, for example.
Did you know there's going to be a John Moxley-Yano match?
In B Block, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying we'll see it necessarily, but I don't know. I
Eventually.
might try and track it down.
Sure. So it's rare that we record on a Wednesday. And oftentimes, Dow reminds us that when it's a Friday and I work and he doesn't, I come with axes to grind.
Yeah, you come in hot.
Yeah, I just didn't want to say it because it sounds better when you say it. So I was leading you to that thing.
Yeah, no, you come in hot. You usually come in, like, the first thing we have to do, even if we have, like, a topic list that we want to go through or things you've put up on the whiteboard, we will start with, here's a thing that happened today that made Patrick angry. A story he's got to tell about something that infuriated him at the store. So, yeah, the combination of we're going to record Wednesday night with how Wednesday sort of started meant that the first topic was going to have to be today's release of Walking Dead number 193. For those who don't know, and we're going to stay spoiler-free on this for people who maybe haven't read the issue yet or waiting for the collections, on Monday, rumors were kind of percolating through the industry from accounts in comics retail that get their books on Monday that, oh my god, issue 193 of Walking Dead is the final issue.
Didn't you just say spoiler-free?
It's not a spoiler to say the series is over.
Okay.
When I say
Okay.
spoiler-free, I mean...
Oh, yeah, we're not discussing the story
I'm
at
not
all.
going to tell you the story content,
Because-
but that it ended is not a spoiler.
Because the content of the book
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Right.
Well, I'm going to back up for a second and just say that today is a day in retail that kind of runs the gamut. It epitomizes everything about the industry, the good and the bad.
Yeah, it made me pessimistic, maybe, for the future of the industry.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But to bring people up to speed, on Monday, July 1st, rumors were sort of percolating through the industry that Walking Dead 193, the issue that was being released on Wednesday, July 3rd, was the final issue. And we don't get our product on Monday. We get it on Tuesdays, the same way a lot of accounts do.
We don't get it on Monday anymore.
True. So we ended up contacting someone that we knew who got their stuff on Monday and said, hey, is this true? And they said, yeah, it's true, and sent us a photo of the first page of the letters column, which, for issue 193, is just a 6-page letter from Robert Kirkman explaining why this is the final issue of Walking Dead. So it was clear to us, like, yes, this is definitely happening. It is the final issue. Not only was it the final issue, unannounced, still for the same $3.99 cover price, it was a triple-sized issue. So it was this gigantic kind of
72-page book.
Almost epilogue to the series. So
Now, we're lucky in that regard that we were able to get confirmation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of other people couldn't. And when rumors were getting out, stores outright asked Image, and Image said, hey, you should pay attention to what Robert Kirkman has to say.
Yeah. It was not officially announced, I don't think, until late Tuesday, maybe early Wednesday. A bunch of different places were reporting it at different times. But it largely was not being acknowledged until, like, at Wednesday, basically.
I had people messaging me on Facebook saying, is this true?
Yeah.
And even though I knew it was true, I would not...
Right.
I don't want to take that away from them.
Yeah, but once it's out there,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it ceases to be a spoiler once the issue's in the wild and everybody knows, hey, Walking Dead ended today. Like, it's... Robert Kirkman talks in his letter about the idea of not really publicizing this was going to be the final issue, to not let people look at the occurrences of the final few issues and say, oh, well, this is the ending. To have the end just suddenly happen, to him was more exciting than just the buildup of the final issues of The Walking Dead. But the flip side of that is that while Image had offered to retailers full returnability in issue 193 of Walking Dead,
due to the story content of the previous issues.
Yeah, that was largely because you maybe had a lot of people jumping out with 191 and 192, and hey, this is the start of a brand new storyline. I don't think they phrased it in this way, but I think the way I interpreted it was, we don't know how big the audience is going to be going forward, so we're going to make sure that you're not caught with issues in case people are like, well, a main character has died, I'm not going to read the comic book anymore.
And I think you may have heard us mention a few times in the past that our Walking Dead numbers have shrunk rapidly.
Yeah, not counting the last few issues, we were selling maybe 2 copies off the shelf.
Yeah, 1 or 2 copies above subscribers.
Yeah.
And, I mean, literally those were our lowest numbers for that book since we've been in existence.
Yeah. But for this issue, we upped our numbers.
Because of their returnability.
Yeah, so we're like, we'll give it a shot. Let's see what the audience is like.
And we went up a lot for us, I think.
I think we went up maybe 30 or 40%.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't, like, triple our numbers or whatever because we didn't know what was happening. So for us, the conservative number, because even if it's returnable, you're paying for it up front. You'll get the money back later, but that could take months.
And also, historically, when there's a major event in a comic, as there was in 192, people don't come back for the start of the next storyline. They just want that thing. People didn't buy the issue of Amazing Spider-Man after Barack Obama was in it.
They didn't buy 584. So when we heard that it was going to be the final issue and that people were already sort of freaking out about it online, it became clear, like, oh, the number that we are getting in is not going to be enough. This is not going to be a sufficient number for the demand that we're likely to see.
Now, Image, knowing the content of that book, I was going to say dramatically, but I don't know if that's true, but they overprinted by a lot.
Yeah, so Monday night, when we were hearing about this, we were able to go on to Diamond Site and go, okay, well, let's reorder some copies. Again, we're paying for these up front, so we don't know what the demand is going to be like. We don't necessarily want to, like, bet the farm on this. So what we decided to do is we picked a number that we thought was good, that at this point was basically tripling what we would normally order for Walking Dead, or doubling it at least.
Doubling it, yeah.
And we said, okay, we'll do that. Because we were ordering it Monday night, the issues wouldn't be in until Friday. But
because of the holiday week.
Right. So we wouldn't have them for the day of release, but we would have them at some point. So that was our situation Monday night. Tuesday, we started to get people who were emailing us saying, hey, can you put me down for that? I want to make sure I get it. And it was subscribers, so like, fine. A couple people, no big deal. Wednesday morning,
I just want to say that we were content because all of our Walking Dead subscribers were cared for.
Yeah.
They got the book. I myself have been a subscriber to Walking Dead since issue number 2.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to say, like, I'm better than you because I've been in it this whole time, but we took care of the people that had been getting it from us regularly.
Sure. So Wednesday morning, for the first time in a long time, it felt like, which is something we'll talk about later in the episode, we had people waiting outside. We had somebody waiting outside, first thing, who needed to get a copy of Walking Dead 193. We have a limit, standing limit. Any new this week item is a limit of 2 copies per person per day. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter how many copies we've got. 2 copies per person per day.
Right.
Boy, that was tested today. Long story shorter, we sold out of Walking Dead 193, the copies that we'd gotten in on Tuesday, the copies that we had ordered 50% more than we normally do for Walking Dead, in an hour and 15 minutes. In an hour and 15 minutes, we had sold off the shelf every copy we had. There were a few that were reserved for people, that people called up, because we were getting phone calls immediately.
Oh, yeah.
For people looking for Walking Dead 193. So much so that later in the day, we started to answer the phone, challengers, we do not have copies of Walking Dead number 193. Because it was just an easier way to do it than having to go through the rigmarole of, do you have it? We don't. Etc. Just let me lead with, we don't have it. That's your question.
It doesn't matter, though, because when you did that one time, they immediately asked you, yeah, do you have this book?
Well, they didn't immediately. So,
no, but I mean, this book meaning a different book.
Yes, they asked for Arrow number 1, any variant covers, and I said, no, we just have the regular cover. And then they said, do you have Walking Dead 193? Which I had literally just told them prior to the first question that we do not. But
My one fun exchange on the phone, and by fun I mean what I said, I answered the phone saying, "Challengers, please don't ask me about Walking Dead 193. And the woman on the phone said, "Oh, did you say you haven't?" "No," I said, "please don't ask me about Walking Dead 193. "Oh, so are you sold out?"
Yes, we're sold out.
That's twice you asked me about it.
So we sold out within an hour and 15 minutes. So by 12:15, we were already no copies for the shelf. So we posted up a sign saying that we were expecting more copies in on Friday.
Yeah, our reorder was confirmed, and it was, by that point, it was sold out. The first print was sold out through Diamond, through Image, and Image already announced the second print.
Right. So we started taking a list for people to, when we get it in on Friday, we will give you a phone call. You can come pick it up then. But so much of the day was answering Walking Dead questions and taking reservations for Walking Dead and all of this Walking Dead stuff that at one point I'm like, holy shit, so many good books came out this week, but this Walking Dead 193 thing sucked all the oxygen out of the room. It feels like all I'm doing all day is dealing with Walking Dead people instead of like being able to pitch Lois Lane #1 or Superman Up in the Sky #1 or Sea of Stars #1 or any number of books that are exciting this week. Instead, it's just dealing with, no, we do not have Walking Dead 193 anymore.
There was one guy who was so excited that we had, at that point, I answered the phone, we had 2 copies left, so we put one aside from him. And he's so thankful and so polite and walked around the store forever and just bought that one book.
Yeah, we did have people who bought other stuff. They maybe get a 192 second print that also came out this week.
Which we're already out of.
Or they get something else. But yeah, there were definitely people who we'd reserved copies for that came in, and that was all they bought. So on the one hand, we sold a bunch of copies, and I guarantee you we'll sell whatever other copies we get on Friday. Like, we will sell out of double what we normally order for Walking Dead. That's good. The bad is going to feel like it drastically outweighs that, and maybe it does. First of all, this is a $3.99 comic book. So all of this effort that we're going through for this, the phone calls, the setting stuff aside, the taking names and numbers, the calling them when it comes in, is for $2 in profit. Like, it's not for the Cami Garcia Raven graphic novel that has a cover price over $10. It's not for some amazing new hardcover that's $50. It's not even for like an $8 DC prestige format book. It's a $4 comic book. It's almost not worth our time to take any reservations, to do anything for it. Because the time we're doing that is times that we're not pitching people on Lois Lane, which is a 12-issue series, pitching people on the $5 Superman Up in the Sky. Like, instead, it's just occupying our time
Tom King-written Superman Up in the Sky.
With a $4 comic book that is the final issue. Additionally, maybe more frustrating, immediately online this thing was going for like anywhere between like $15 and $50. So most of the people who are looking for this book are not longtime readers who are desperate to get the final chapter, because those people were already in subscription services, as witnessed by the fact that 5 months ago we were selling 1 to 2 copies extra off the shelf. Mm-hmm. So the casual fans for Walking Dead largely don't exist anymore. The people who are getting it are either getting it because A, it's some kitschy thing because, I used to read Walking Dead, or I watched the TV show, I want to see how it all ends, despite the fact that this is not the ending that you will ever see on TV. But more likely, based on the desperate need for a lot of people to get them and the fact that they're trying to track down a copy at any cost, is because it's a $4 comic book that day of release was going for anywhere between $15 and $50.
There's literally a store in the city that was selling it today for $48.
Yeah, and we've talked before about the fact that we don't like marking up anything, really. Like, I think it's a tendency in the comics market to treat marking stuff up as just like a cost of doing business common thing. But while it's ingrained, I think it's definitely something that you can re-examine and ask, why are we doing this? Like, other than you can, like, is that a good enough reason? And to me, I feel like there's a lot of negatives to marking stuff up, to charging more than cover price, especially day of release for a brand new book, to be like, oh, there's demand for this, it's 10 times the cover price now. Like, I think of that in terms of, if I went to a store and I wanted to read a comic book, and I saw that the day of release they were charging 10 times the cover price because, shrug, that's what the market will bear, I would never shop there again. And we've heard from people that they get turned off of different shops because of that attitude. However, days like today make me think we are the dumbest retailers in America. We sold a comic book that we could have made an extra $11 to $46 per copy for cover price to people who are almost definitely selling it for that price online. They're making the $11 to $46. We're making $2.
And these are not regulars of ours.
No.
All these people that came in looking for it, we've never seen them.
Yeah.
We're not going to see them again.
They're not grateful that we treated them fairly when they got a $4 comic. They think we're the biggest suckers on the planet. That we don't know that this thing is worth $15 to $50.
Of that list of people we started taking names for, there's a few club members who, oh, I thought I emailed about this kind of thing, or, oh, I want this.
Oh, did I forget to mention I wanted the last 2 hugely desired issues of Walking Dead? Yes, I guess you did forget.
But of the, 20 names we have on the list so far, there's one person I'm excited to get this book for. There's one person I'm like, yeah, that dude's a good guy. I want them to have this book.
Yeah. Mostly it's people that, are either in the subscription service and had plenty of time to tell us they wanted this, but only want it because it's a hot issue. We do have subscribers like that. Thankfully, it's not a lot, but there are people in our subscription service that, in my mind, represent the things that I dislike in this industry because they just want hot books. They don't care about the story content. They're not interested in the characters or the ongoing anything. They just want the book when it's hot. They want these issues of Walking Dead because they were hot issues. They don't want Oblivion Song or Outcast or anything else Kirkman does.
Die.
Unless it's hot. Unless it's got a media deal. They might want Outcast or Oblivion Song now if they can get the pink signature cover. So dealing with a lot of this stuff is just, to my mind, dealing with the worst, most regrettable aspects of the comics industry, the collectible part of it, that I wish there was some way for us to completely disentangle ourselves from. And in my darker moments, I'd come back to the idea of, what if we stop carrying single comics? Because the graphic novel part, that's not collectible. That's just selling to readers. People just want to read a story. They're excited about comic books. I love those people. Those people are why I do this job. Having to stop doing that for part of my day to deal with people who just want something that has a monetary value to it, that has no intrinsic artistic merit in their mind. It is literally just an amount of money they can make off of it, makes me so furious. It makes me, honestly, a little nauseous. Having to deal with that part of the market so thoroughly in an 8-hour period. I hate it.
There's a level of the collector aspect that I almost lament that we don't have. And when I say collector, I mean somebody who wants all of the series. We don't traditionally get a lot of people that go all in for big storylines.
No, and some of that is because we are very honest with the idea of seeing people do it in the decades that you and I have both been retailing, and seeing them unhappy by the end of it, realizing they wasted a bunch of money, unhappy with the results. So we're usually honest with people saying, hey, when you're reading War of the Realms, definitely read War of the Realms, almost definitely read Thor. You don't really have to read Fantastic Four.
Right.
That's not going to give you any more information. If you don't read Fantastic Four and like those characters, it is not going to enhance your experience in any way. It's just going to be $4 you paid that maybe by the end of it, you're going to look at a stack of comics that you don't normally read and go, Jesus Christ, I think I spent $50 on stuff that I don't like and did not make reading this other thing better. In fact, usually it makes it worse.
But I do want to see the excitement. I want, and I say this knowing that we have one or two people that did it, but people that say, oh, I want all the Absolute Carnage stuff.
Sure.
I mean, neither you nor I are interested in it, but who cares if we are?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I want that person to get the experience that they're looking for. And there are plenty of times that new books come out and we sell fast on them, but it's great because it's people who are excited to read it. I'm super psyched for the crush of people that we're going to see for House of X #1.
Oh my goodness,
We ordered a ton, but these are people who are not excited about it because it's going to be worth $18 the next day. They're excited about it because Jonathan Hickman is reinventing the X-Men franchise. If you've ever cared about X-Men comics in your life, you want to read this one. We're getting a ton of lapsed people. We had previous subscribers who stopped getting comics email us to go, hey, I want to reactivate my subscription and I want to get those Hickman books.
Yeah.
That's great. That's the ideal,
and
man.
We placed a crazy high number for number 1.
Yeah.
Went back and upped it.
Upped it more.
And now I'm like, is that enough?
Oh, man. Yeah. I don't know if you saw my FOC numbers, but I was like, that number that we talked about, plus these other, some of these open order covers, I'm like, yeah, man, people are going to want those Mark Brooks connecting covers. I'm going to get a bunch of those.
Why don't you write down, do you think you have the total number of what you did for, and did you go equal for both?
We didn't FOC Powers yet.
Okay.
That's this week. I want to say it's got to be between this number and this number.
Okay. Where did you write? Oh my good. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
And also, it's like a, what, $12 book? I kid. It's not $12.
Right.
It's not $12.
No, so that sort of thing, that excitement, I love it because that is people excited about comics and it's excited about, to be a retailer for just a minute. The excitement is something that is for an extended thing. It's not just for a one moment instance where we might not see them again for another 2 years, but for a 12-week run of comics that will then launch a line of books. So if they're this excited for the start of it, man, I can't wait to see what happens when the actual new X-Men books start coming out and you get to see what a Jonathan Hickman curated X-Men line looks like. But this Walking Dead thing is the exact opposite. It's long ago, and maybe someone who has a better recall for these podcasts than I do, will remember that we did one where we talked about collectible comics and how when things are just looked at as a collectible and not as a story or anything artistic, you might as well just be selling dildos. It doesn't...
I mean, I believe you said widgets.
No, I said dildos.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, mostly because I got to say dildos a whole bunch of times, and it was really funny to me. But it doesn't matter. You're getting all of this excitement for something that is not being read. It's not being enjoyed. I dislike it so much.
This is where we come off looking like dicks because...
Which, fine. I mean...
here we are telling people how to engage with the product that we sell. We are a store. People give us money. We give them a thing. They're not paying for our judgment. That comes free.
Well, I will say this. We did not gatekeep. We did not, even though I joked about it, should we do a Walking Dead quiz to make sure that people actually give a shit about the comic or going to buy it?
Dal's one quiz question was, aside from the big thing that happened in 192, which we're not going to say in case you haven't read it yet,
right.
Can you tell me anything else that is happening in this comic?
In the last 6 issues.
Yeah.
Something that shows that, yes, you're actually tuned into this and you're going to read and enjoy this.
And so, I get it if you're... I'm sorry, but I get it if you read it up to, 100 or, oh, they killed Glenn, how dare you, I quit. And you want to see how it ends. I get it. But I didn't get that feeling from any of the people that were in today.
Right. So this is the thing. We didn't gatekeep. We didn't say, you can only buy this if you're going to read and enjoy it. So people could buy it and do whatever the hell they want with it. They could read it and enjoy it. They could throw it out a car window. I don't care.
Shove it up their butts.
That's none of my business.
They could shine it up real good.
However,
turn it sideways.
I can 100%, as a person who started a business to help people find and enjoy comic books as an artistic medium, feel disappointed when all of that is devalued into just being commerce and nothing else. I think that is a fair exchange of emotions. I will do my job, but I can absolutely internally feel disappointed by this part of the market. And you know what? That's our store, and we're allowed to feel that way. If you run a collectible store, and you're all about marking up stuff and incentive covers and all that stuff, you're allowed to feel the exact opposite. You're allowed to feel yeah, man, I made a ton of money today. I feel great about this. Fine. But I'm allowed to feel the opposite. I'm allowed to feel this is the opposite of what I want out of the comics industry. The exact opposite. I wish this part of it, and I've mentioned this before, if I could have one wish to affect the comics market, it would be like yesterday, like that movie Yesterday, if everybody woke up tomorrow and the idea of comic books being collectible disappeared, that would be paradise for me. Absolute paradise. If the secondary market of it was simply like a secondhand book, was just like, oh, this is someone's old comic. Yeah, I'll buy that because it's super cheap.
And I want to read it.
Not because it has value, not because it is more collectible. Yeah. Yeah, I wish.
So there was a point today where I threw the phone in the garbage.
Uh-huh.
And it went all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, you were digging in there for a minute. I
I
had a piece of paper to throw out, and I'm like, I'll do that in a minute, I guess.
I mean, I was going to leave it there, but I didn't want you to have to go get it.
I didn't want to dig in the garbage for something I didn't put there. No.
I thought about taking the battery out, then I realized, oh, the bass would still ring.
Yeah.
Thought about just turning it off.
Uh-huh.
It brought out everything we hate about the industry, but there were moments today that are why we do what we do.
There were so many fun people.
Fifth grade teacher in who discovered science comics.
Yeah.
And bought a ton of them
Yeah.
for next year's class and was excited for
Super
them.
excited.
Yeah, and it's so great. Like that. That's why we do this.
Yeah, had fun conversations with people about the new Lois Lane and Superman books.
But
Yeah.
but it was like we wanted to focus on that.
Right.
We were talking just last night about, you know, there are some stores where the proprietor could take up residence at their new release wall and just be handing books and talking books like, oh, you should get this, or here's that, and our new release wall is at the other end of the store from where we are. Mm-hmm. That's the way it works out spatially.
Plus, it's like the milk in the grocery store rule.
Right. You have to walk past everything else to get to it. But the idea of, you know, just using Wednesday to talk to people about the new books is great when you have that ability, but there's a ton of work we each need to do on a Wednesday.
But even then, like, normally we have to do that work, and we can do the other stuff around it.
Right.
Like, we don't do a ton of, like, special projects and stuff on Wednesday because the time we should spend doing that stuff, we should spend actually, like, talking to people about books and hand-selling stuff and recommending things. So while there's an amount of work that we have to do, like, you're done with your version of it by, like, 4. I'm done with my version of it by, like...
4:10.
2, well, like, 2? And then I do some more, like, later in the evening.
I thought you meant... I was giving you the 10 minutes after, like, you get the computer back from
right.
me.
No, yeah, like, I'll have some stuff to do in the first couple hours, but then I'm usually... I don't have much to do besides lunch until 4 or 5.
Which, don't discount the importance of that.
I do like lunch. But then I'll work on the computer for a little bit. A little bit longer today. I had some stuff to prep for next week that I needed to work on. But in general, yeah, it's a lot of Wednesday is about being able to ring people up and spend time with them and answer their questions and talk to them about what's going on. A week like this where you can, you know, hey, what are you doing for 4th of July? What did you think of the Spider-Man movie? Like, all that sort of stuff.
I told you, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, no. He swings from webs, Patrick. Any size.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know you were avoiding trailers, but there's a nugget for you. So yeah, it was disappointing that so much of our day had to be spent on a $4 comic book that people were selling for anywhere between 3 and 12 times what they paid for it. That was fun.
Yeah.
I think my least favorite element of all of this was finding that people were online on eBay pre-selling 9.8 graded copies of a book that came out today.
And 9.9.
Yeah, 9.9.
Parentheses, not 9.8.
Not 9.8. For $300. Yep. For a $4 comic book.
How do you guarantee you have a book that's 9.9?
Well, the joke is it's super simple because this one is square bound.
Yeah.
So it's super easy to get a high-grade book because you don't have to worry about staples and spines and creases and stuff.
Well, the other thing that I don't understand about this particular book is because of the overprint for the returnability and them knowing what the content was, there are way more issues, or way more copies of this issue available than of the last, I don't know, 50 issues.
It's a short-term spike. All this stuff now is short-term spikes. Like, nothing retains any value, which makes the idea of paying $300 for a graded copy, like, wait 6 months. You are not going to have to pay $300 for a 9.8 copy in 6 months.
Yeah.
I practically guarantee it. I'm not absolutely guaranteeing it. The market is stupid, and I have definitely been frustrated by overestimating how smart the market is. So maybe some dummy is going to be out there paying $300 for it in 12 months, but I really don't think so. It's a lot of people who have no patience and are willing to pay double or triple what they should pay just to guarantee they have it now.
I would also like to point out that at the time that this episode goes up and you're hearing this, we're not going to have that book. Please don't ask us. Especially don't do it as a joke.
Yeah.
Don't come in on Wednesday and say, "Hey, I meant to email you about Walking Dead 193." I may ask you to leave.
Yeah, that is literally never funny.
Yeah.
I don't think that any of this is... Like, we may find a joke in it a few weeks from now, but the wounds are still pretty raw. So if you're hearing this anytime in July, just don't mention it. It's way smarter if you don't mention it.
Way back in 1991 when Superman died...
Mm-hmm. Spoilers!
And we worked elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
There was a situation where that company went through a different place to get issues of Superman 50.
Uh-huh.
And
75.
75, excuse me. And it fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
So the extra hundreds and hundreds of copies we thought we were getting, we didn't get.
Oops.
And we only had the bare minimum orders that we'd put in before we were told, don't worry, we're getting a bunch elsewhere. That was one of the worst days I've ever worked in comics retail.
Yeah.
And, like, we literally had people calling up and saying, I will pay you $25 per copy of what you have.
Yeah. This is... What was the bad copy going for? Like $2 or $3?
Yeah, at that... yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Less than $5 for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. And, of course, one of the things that made this not as bad as that was, well, you were there.
Hey!
So there was at least a
some way to
buffer,
commiserate.
a foil.
There was a point pretty early in the day where if I wasn't working so hard on the restock, I was basically going to take the phone away from you. So you wouldn't have to field any more phone calls about Walking Dead 193. Because it seemed to be killing you way faster than it was killing me.
What I think is ironic about that is I think you sounded way more angry so far in this podcast than I did.
I don't want to say I was bottling it up, but I can be more vocal than I could in the store. Like, I can't really vent about it in the store because, frankly, there were frequently people in the store who were picking up their copies of Walking Dead 193 from us. So me screaming about how much I hate Walking Dead 193 and the people who are buying it probably would have sounded a little tacky. A little unprofessional, Patrick.
So, ironically, or I guess serendipitously, we came across some videos on the internet today of an apparently famous YouTuber, a British YouTuber.
What was his name? Because he says it like 18,000 times in that video.
I remember it, but I don't want to give him any
That's fair.
publicity.
He doesn't need it. He's probably way more famous than we are.
Oh, for sure. I'm sure he makes a ton of money. So this guy runs into John Cena in like a Nescafe store or a store that sells like appliances or coffee makers or whatever.
Okay.
And he pulls out his phone. He's like, oh, it's John Cena. And if anybody knows who Big Nasty is, this guy talks just like him.
Okay.
So it's a very specific
kind of accent
area. Yeah, it's like Essex, but it's a little bit northern.
It sounded a bit like Ali G to me.
Yeah, but that's affectation.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it's
sure.
Wherever that character's supposed to be from in England.
I don't know anything about that.
Okay. I don't either.
Sure.
I know what he sounds like, and he sounds like this guy.
Okay. I appreciate that, because I don't...
Okay.
That's an observation I could not make.
Okay.
So this guy starts filming John Cena, walks up, he's like, hey, it's John Cena. And John Cena's like, hey, you should ask me before you do this. Oh, yeah, I'm a big famous guy, and I just want... He's like, no, you're being rude. You're being rude right now. You just came out and started filming. You didn't ask me if you can do this. And John Cena shuts him down. And so the guy spends 4 more minutes from a distance filming John Cena interacting with the salespeople and buying his thing or whatever, while flipping the phone back to him saying, like, I don't know what his problem is. I don't know why he's doing this. I'm just, and says his name 100 times. Mm-hmm. And I used to watch WCW when I was a kid. He kept getting it wrong, saying, I don't know, is it WWE, WCW, whatever?
Don't worry, he's a big fan.
And then you see a guy walk up to John Cena and say, like, hey, would you mind if I take a picture? And John Cena says, sure.
Yeah.
Lets him take a picture. The
come
guy
up, you
takes a
ask.
picture, walks away. Took like 3 seconds. He didn't just throw a camera in his face or whatever.
Right.
So then John Cena buys his stuff and he's walking out, and this guy still like comes up to him and he wants to talk. And John Cena's like, no, you don't get to. You never asked me, and you've been filming me without my permission this entire time. And and then John Cena leaves. The guy's like, but I was going to give you some advice. And John comes back. He's like, let me give you advice. Stop doing this.
Yeah.
And he walks away. And at no point, like, John Cena, like, the title was, John Cena flips out on this guy. He was calm. He was polite. Mm-hmm. He was just saying, you can't do this. And then after Cena leaves, this guy that spends another 50 seconds being like, I don't know what his problem is. I'm just trying to help him out. I'm just a fan. Like, like he deserves this.
Sure.
Like, even after being admonished multiple times, he still doesn't understand what he was doing wrong. So the reason I bring that story up is even if we were saying it in the store, I guarantee you people would be thinking, oh, they don't mean me.
I guess.
We're doing them the favor. We're giving them money for this book.
I guess. Yeah, it's nothing that I want to be in the store, but on a comics industry business podcast, yeah, man, that's how I feel.
All right.
It makes me disappointed that that's what the market is when that's the market that I work in.
However, House of X and Powers of 10.
Yeah, man. Psyched.
Next week, there's 1 billion #1s coming out.
Yeah.
There's so many new #1s coming out. So
Reaver #1.
Batman Universe.
Yeah, Nick Darrington. That's going to be good.
Nick Darrington art on a Brian Michael Bendis Batman story.
More excited about
with
Nick Darrington.
Bunch of Riddlers. I'm just saying. It could be good.
Sure.
That's right. I was more excited for Tom King than I was for
Andy Kubert.
Andy Kubert.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. So before Walking Dead happened,
Yes.
and this is like literally just 2 days, really.
Yeah.
2.5 days.
It was not going to be what this episode was going to be about. We had 2 other things to talk about.
Yeah. What was the other one?
Did we talk about Vertigo last time?
Yeah.
There was something else then.
Okay.
Something else that happened. I can't remember. I gotta
Well,
look it up.
let's just jump into the other thing then.
Okay.
So when we started this podcast, this episode, not the whole thing, also one of the reasons we have to not record over the weekend is because of fireworks.
Yeah, for sure.
When we started this episode, we talked about how this would be a very business-centric episode, and what that means is we're going to do a deep dive into our June 2019 sales, because June has just ended. Dal did a lot of digging, and
I crunched numbers. I crunched all sorts of things.
we're gonna talk about those in detail, and I hesitate to even start because you did such a good. Like I don't know if you had a specific way you wanted to do this,
No.
but I think I'm just going to start by saying
However you want, buddy.
June 2019 sucked.
Yeah, I guess that's the not to draw out too many financial terms too quickly, but it was a financial nightmare for us.
It was the worst June we've had, and I don't even since we've been recording.
Yeah, on
Since we've been
record is
keeping-
maybe.
yeah.
What's most funny to me in a gallows humor way, which is how all of this is going to be funny. June was the second month in 2019 that was the lowest on record month for the year. Like there was another month this year, like April or May or something, or April or March, that was similarly like you would have to go back 5 years or more to
Yeah,
to
when
find
we
a
say
lower month.
on record, what this is that around 2014 or 2015, we started putting in, like in our weekly recaps, the previous year's
Yeah.
numbers.
So when we're looking at comparisons, we're not looking at 11 years ago because a lot of that is largely irrelevant at this point.
And we can go back and dig it up,
Yeah.
but now, this is what is at our fingertips as we're punching in the
5
numbers.
years, though, is a good way to kind of chart a graph of how are we doing, where are the ups and downs, like what are the years like.
Yeah.
Because we're in our 11th, we're in our 12th year now? 12th year now.
Yeah.
So by the time you're hitting, your 5th or your 6th year, you're a pretty mature business. You're not going to see the huge growth that you were before because you were starting from zero. Past a certain point, you're at a much higher number, and the idea of doing multiples of that it's not possible anymore. So you're going to do percentage increases and smaller percentages as you go on. Maybe you get good months and bad months, but in general, you want to be going up because, things are money changes its value, so you want to be making more money as time goes on, not less.
And while in the first half of 2019, we had more months that were up than were down,
Yeah.
the months that were down were so down that we went from being, just a couple $1,000s away from last year to, we're not going to catch it.
Yeah, basically we would have to do, like, every month for the rest of 2019 would have to be up over its corresponding month of 2018 by a minimum of 5%.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is.
Yeah, but when you're doing months that are down, say, 20%, being up 5% is you might as well be doubling your business as far as how it feels from inside the store.
That's right, listener. June 2019 was down 20% from June 2018.
Yeah, it's a pretty big number. If people want to think about it in this term, basically it was like we were closed for an entire week of June.
Yeah.
If we were closed for 2 days, it would be detrimental to our business. Being closed for an entire week is, holy shit, this is the only time this can ever happen. Like, it is not allowed to happen again. If it happens again, we're having serious discussions about the store being a store anymore. Like, this cannot be the new normal. So we're going to go into a lot of numbers here. So for people who don't like numbers podcasts, thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. We'll see you next week.
Keep crunching numbers.
For those who like numbers podcasts, I have a bunch of charts, and then following that, I've got a bunch of anecdotes to put things in less numbery terms. The main stuff that we're going to hit on is that, first of all, 20% is the amount of dollars that we did not do from June 2018 to June 2019. We dropped 20%. That's huge.
Now, that's not all things are equal 20% difference, but we'll explain that.
Right. So, if anyone's been listening to the podcast for the past month, you have heard us talking about how June seemed really down. We're doing weekly totals before we get to our monthly totals, and the weekly totals are not good. We can kind of chart out, like, boy, if this is 1/4 of what we need to make for the month, we are under that by a lot. So the next weeks must go up. And then when you're in weeks 2 and 3, it's pretty clear, nothing's going to save this. This is just a terrible month. So it's sometimes difficult to remember kind of what the previous year was like. When you're in a day job like comics retail, you're so hyper-focused on what's going on around you that a year ago might as well be a decade ago.
Yeah, it's really hard to remember what were the hot books last June, what came out last June.
Yeah.
And June 2017, to jump back a little bit, was a big month for us, mainly because we had the Rickmobile.
Yeah, that came in the first weekend in June.
And that was, at the time, that was our biggest sales day ever.
Yeah, it was basically...
Since then, we've had 2 higher days.
Yeah, it was another free comic book day, to put it in perspective. So it was huge, and in June 2017, we were radically over June 2016 because of that.
But then, miraculously...
Well, so June 2018, we were down a little bit.
Oh, okay. I thought we were...
We were pretty close, but we were down a bit, but we were still up huge over June 2016.
And 2016 was our best year.
Yeah.
As a store.
Yeah. So
and we'll still be.
Yeah, probably. When I'm looking at the numbers, how they're coming in for June 2019, I'm like, what was it about June 2018 that we're not matching? Like, was it a bunch of events? So I look back. No. We didn't do any really big special events. I think we had a couple things like Women's Comics Night and Correspondence Club, and then I think we had like one kind of local signing. So it was nothing that would have brought in thousands and thousands of dollars of extra business that we weren't seeing. But I waited until the end of the month to really kind of delve into the rest of it because, what comes out is a huge determination towards how we do for a month. Good books come out that people are excited about, we're going to do a bunch of business. No books come out that people are excited about, we're going to do less business. So it got to the end of the month, and I start charting out kind of individual categories, and I'm going to blow through these real fast because they're all negative.
Sure, yeah, by all means.
Graphic novels, sales-wise, these are all going to be sales amounts. We were down 17%. Marvel was down 6%. DC was down 13%. And this is all June 2019 versus June 2018. Other publishers were down 26%. Back issues were up 1%. Comic supplies and card supplies were down 9%. T-shirts, clothing, pins was down 39%. Posters and prints were up 14%. toys, action figures, statues were down 59%.
59%.
Collectible card games were up 14%. Yes, I have been buying the Transformers card game. Thank you. Food, a category we do not track and have nothing for anymore, was down 100%.
What? That's insane.
It went from $10 down to zero.
Ugh. That's at least $4 of profit we lost.
Yeah. So total sales again down 20%. But here was the key, and I realized this after I dug into some categories. Like, okay, graphic novels down 17%. What was the big graphic novel that came out in June 2018 that suddenly we're not seeing the sales for? Was it like a saga or something like that? No. Thing we sold the most copies of in June 2018 was Dark Knight's Metal hardcover. We sold 7 copies of. So it's not like anything was selling like 100 copies that we couldn't replicate in 2019. Similarly, like, I was thinking Marvel. Oh yeah, Marvel had all their big launches. Like, they were launching stuff like Avengers and it wasn't like Ellen Cap or Spider-Man, but there was other stuff like Black Panther, I think, was that month. So all of their big Marvel launches, those were all happening in like May and June and July. But those numbers were not massive. They weren't dwarfing what we have now. And again, the bigger stuff wouldn't happen until July.
But also, didn't you say our Marvel is up?
No, it was down 6%.
Oh, I misread that.
Other publishers was down 26%, and we did have some stuff that was not on the same level this time. Saga was still coming out, so we had an issue of Saga that was kind of around that period that we're selling a bunch of copies of. Also, Barrier was doing its 5-issue weekly release thing through like May and June, so we had a bunch of that. So there really wasn't anything on that level. But the main thing I found out was that when I tracked the customer count, the amount of customers that came in June 2018 versus June 2019, the drop was 16%. We saw 16% less people in June 2019 than June 2018.
That's a big number.
Which basically explains almost all of our drops. And I found this out by double-checking basically what was our average spend per customer. And we take that by taking the amount of sales we do for a period, divide it by the number of customers who come in that period, and figure out, okay, what's the average customer spending? If we average it out, what are they spending? And the drop for average customer spend was only 4%. We dropped 4% per customer.
Like $1.16?
Yeah, it was like $1.40 per customer. So it was not that the books were bad or that nothing was coming out, because the people who were coming in, a 4% drop, it's not good. A drop is always bad. But it's within a range of like...
4% is manageable.
Yeah, it's like a hiccup. It's not a big deal. It's you rebound from it. Like Patrick was saying, in previous months, we had ups and downs. So, 1 month we might be down 4%. The next month we're up 6%. So whatever, it averages out. End of the year, hopefully you're up more than single-digit percentages. That would be great. But you want to be up. So what happened in its entirety, and what was almost a little frustrating because I found this out after I had crunched all of these numbers, was I could have avoided all that, just looked at the average spend and the customer count and gone, oh, it's that a ton of people just didn't come in. That 16% of shoppers from one year to another just didn't come in. And when they didn't come in, they didn't spend the average spend that everybody else spent. And you multiply the number of customers that didn't come in by what the average spend was, and it's like, that's the money we didn't make.
And just to give you a little more context, 16% equals hundreds of people.
Yeah, so the stuff that we were seeing on Wednesdays when we were doing these episodes of Contest of Challengers in the last month, and we were saying, like, God, Wednesdays seem really dead, and the numbers are way lower than we... No, that was every day of the week, and you add it up over the month, and it's like, oh yeah, it's been dead. Like, June just didn't have a lot of people coming in. And unfortunately, it's a hard thing to draw a lot of data or any sort of, like, solution to, because it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. Was the lack of good product keeping people from coming in, or was it just that no one was coming in and the books were still good? Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, but there's no way to answer that.
Right, so it's just like, I don't know, shrug. Like, so when we were crunching the numbers, it was going to be one of two things. Either one, people are not buying as much, and that's bad. Or two, people are just not coming in, which is also bad. I feel like if I have to pick one of the two, I like how this turned out better. Because if people aren't coming in, it's like, well, if they just start coming back in again, or we start cultivating new customers, hopefully that will replenish itself. Or at the very least, we adjust down our ordering so that we can make do with the numbers who come in. And to be fair, we dropped our main two supplier spends 8% between June 2018 and June 2019. So we were ordering less. We were not getting caught with a lot of stuff. We didn't drop it, 20%, but we dropped it enough that we were protecting ourselves.
Yeah, that's an important aspect when you look at profitability.
Yeah.
Which we are still not profitable.
Correct.
But we're not worse off.
Yeah. If it had gone the other way, if the same amount of customers were coming in, but everybody was spending 20% less, that's really difficult because that's something that we, unfortunately, kind of as a market can't solve. If the books aren't good, if the publishers are not putting out things that people like, if stories are ending, like Walking Dead, and there's nothing to replace them, that's real bad. Again, you can adjust your spend down to keep from drowning in product, which will absolutely put you out of business, but you can't make the books be good. You can solve other problems. You can do advertising, you can do outreach, you can do a lot of things that hopefully will draw more people into your store, but if there's nothing for them to buy, or if the things that they want to buy don't exist, or if the things that they're interested in are bad, you're screwed. Like, you can't fix any of that. All you can hope to do is diversify your product mix. And we carry a lot of different kinds of comics. So if it was that all of the comics across the board are bad, we might as well shut the store down, because we're not going to diversify into like yo-yos and frisbees. That's not happening. And there's stores that's how they get by. Like, oh, the market is bad, the books are bad. Cool. Now I sell milkshakes. That's what my store does now. That's how I'm going to get by. We don't want to do that. We built this store to sell comic books. So I guess the silver lining in this gigantic dark cloud is that the books are still good.
Yeah, for sure.
We just need people to come in and buy them. And while this is troubling information for us and my mom, it's not a chart yet. It's not a graph. It's 1 point. Like, you can look at the other 5 months of 2019 and say, well, there were down months. Yeah, but there were up months too. If July is equally down, that's bad. We have to figure out a solution to this. We cannot just ride this out, whatever that means, whatever that brainstorming session looks like. But currently it's just a thing of like, wow, June was really bad. That's the whole story.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did all these numbers, because for a while I've been saying that it felt like we're getting less people, but they're spending more. Mm-hmm. Now I know we're getting less people, and they're spending a little bit less.
Yeah, but only slightly less. And
yeah.
I think some of that you could actually just chalk up to some of the things where it's like, oh, books like Saga are not out, Barrier's not out. Like, there is a flux of June 2018 was probably a little bit better on the good comics front than June 2019 was. Like, just anecdotally, Marvel didn't launch a lot of stuff in June 2019 because they were in the middle of War of the Realms. Like, there was no bandwidth for them to say, oh, here's a great new title, because we're trying to sell you 30 different War of the Realms miniseries. Last June, they just come off of a catastrophic 2017 and desperately needed to relaunch every book that they had.
And even though War of the Realms was every other week, so were the first 2 issues of all those books last year.
Yeah. June 2019, they don't really have to, in the same critical way they did before, relaunch all of their titles. You're not seeing a new Captain America #1, a new Amazing Spider-Man #1. The X-Men books don't relaunch until July. There's still not a Wolverine #1.
I think it's so great that we're a year into Captain America's relaunch, and they're at number 11. The same date, and I think we talked about this, that Captain America #1 came out, Catwoman #1 came out, and next week Catwoman 13 comes out.
Yeah.
And next week Spider-Man 24 comes out, and it launched after Captain America #1.
Yeah. Crazy. So here's some quick anecdotal stuff. Because, before I got to the customer count thing, which was the answer to the riddle of why did June suck, I was going through different categories and again trying to figure out like what was the change? What product mix was worse in 2019? And one of the things I found out was, again, like the toy category was down some crazy number. It was like down, what, like 50-something%?
Yeah, 56%.
Yeah. So I wanted to delve into that one. Like, that's thousands of dollars. what happened? Because in June 2019, we had 2 new Marvel Legends sets.
Yeah, we had a Spider-Man set, and we had Avengers
Endgame 2.
Endgame 2.
Yeah, so this is... And they were selling well. We still have a bunch of them, but they were selling well. Well, in June 2018, we had 3 Marvel Legends sets we were selling. A Spider-Man, a Deadpool, and an X-Men. And the Deadpool and X-Men ones blew off the shelves. Like, I think we were one of the first places in the U.S. to get the Deadpool wave.
One, yeah.
So we had a few cases of that just went in, 4 days. So
plus, we were marking them all up to $50 a figure, so that...
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
Wait, no, that's a whole different thing.
No, they were selling them for our normal insane price that we have to charge because we are a small account and not a giant direct from Hasbro account. Specifically, in June 2019, we sold 32 Marvel Legends figures. It's a decent number. That's 4 cases of figures.
Yeah.
In June 2018, we sold 76 Marvel Legends figures. That's the difference. More than twice as many. And those things are they're $26 a piece. Like, they're not cheap. So, yeah, selling, an additional 34 of those, yeah, it's going to make a difference. Pop vinyls. June 2019, we sold 29 of them. In June 2018, we sold 53.
Yeah, 29.
Almost double.
That's nothing.
Almost double. Graphic novels, again, was a category that was down. Specific amounts, though, in June 2019, we sold 736 individual graphic novels. That's not titles, that's individual units of graphic novels. June 2018, 884. And this is kind of the main thing about the people who are not coming in. The bigger category drops, and even the bigger dollar amount drops, are the ones that we sell to people who are coming in who are not regular customers and regular subscribers. Graphic novels, Marvel Legends, pop vinyls. This is the sort of stuff that people who are casual shoppers come in and buy. Sometimes that's the only thing they want. So if they're not coming in, those categories are going to see a huge hit. Those are the numbers that I pulled out. Yeah, pretty big deal, these June numbers.
I don't know that we're going to have this deep of a dive for July.
No, this was because the percentage drop was so extreme that we had to do the work to figure out why did this happen, and that made grist for this podcast mill. But if we had gone up 12% or dropped 8%, it's well, it's within a range, so whatever.
Right. But I do feel like you'll be looking closer at the customer account, or me, depends on what day of the week the...
Sure.
The first is a Thursday.
So Kent will obviously be crunching all the numbers.
Right. So it'll be me next month.
All right.
Interesting.
Enjoy.
Interesting. We're putting that on me.
I feel like there was some publishing thing that happened this week that I don't know. I guess not.
Oh, Image announced that they're ending Walking Dead.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Oh, huh. Well, I want to point out that we have an event coming up on Friday, July 12th, that is shaping up to be huge.
Cool.
One of the bigger events we've had in a long time. And that is for, we talked about it a little earlier, the Teen Titans Raven graphic novel. We're going to have the New York Times best-selling co-author of Beautiful Creatures, Cami Garcia. Also, USA Today best-selling co-author of Beautiful Creatures, Cami Garcia. And illustrated by Gabriel Picolo. Both of them will be in the store signing this book, and this tour has been insane so far.
Yeah,
hundreds of people showing up at events, and we are the Chicago stop. We're the Chicago comic stop, so that's a big deal, and we're excited. We were talking to the organizers again today, and they're giving us an update on how some of the other events have gone, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be good.
Yeah.
We're bringing in extra staff to make sure we are running it smoothly.
Yeah. And we're getting waves of product. We'll have a bunch of copies. We've got, I think, we might be sold out right now. We might have 1 copy left, maybe, when I'm saying this, not necessarily when you're listening to this. But we are getting waves of restock product for the event. So if you do need a copy ahead of time to read it so that you can tell Cami and Gabriel that you really enjoyed it, we will have copies starting probably Tuesday.
Or if you just want to ensure that you have it, you're more than welcome to call and have one put aside.
Yep.
We'll be happy to do that just to guarantee you have one.
We got a list going for people who are going to pick it up the day of.
Yeah. We're excited for this and a little trepidatious because it's been a while since we've had anything.
A big deal.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun folks, though.
Yeah, we just had Leanna Kangas and Joe Corello from the Vault comic She Said Destroy. They were doing a little Midwestern tour, the Destroyer tour, and we got to hang out with them all day Saturday, which was awesome. Like breakfast before the store opened.
Yeah.
And they were basically at the store the entire day.
Very nice.
And we had never met Joe before. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But Leanna is super great, super fun, and just so nice. And we met her around C2E2,
Yeah.
and we are already doing other things with her in the future.
We are now comic friends.
Multiple things with her in the future. So thanks to the people that came out for that. And if you didn't come out, you missed out. It was a really fun day. I feel bad for people.
Stop missing out.
Who I don't feel bad for, who in fact I feel thankful towards, is our patrons. And we would like to thank the patrons that are at the thank you level. And that includes Christina McChrystal, Jacob Sorelli, Robert Lane, Morgan Kaiju Perry from Boom Studios, George Brower, Artie White, Michael Romanenko, the entire Springham family, Jose Villagomez, who's in today, Thomas Nagovin from Century Guild, Mitchell Davies, who I was just talking to earlier this week about comical book stores and running comical book stores, since he in fact does run All-Star in Melbourne, Australia. Michael Lee, Ryan Alcock, who we answered some questions from last week, and Matt Armstrong. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everybody.
And shout out to Lord Retail, our good buddy Jermaine Exum, who we were talking to all about the business again this week as well.
Jacob Surley, by the way, his store is nominated for another Spirit of Retailing Award.
Yeah, congratulations. We posted a list on our Facebook page of all of the Eisner Award nominees. It's like 34 or 35 of them, and it's obviously United States, but there's Israel and Spain and Canada, one or two other countries, definitely international. And there's Brian Hibbs' Comics Experience is nominated.
Yep.
Yeah, I honestly thought he won one back in the early 90s. Who knows? Yeah, that's always fun to see that going.
For sure.
So that's pretty great. Thank you, patrons. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, Cammie and Gabriel, in advance for the signing coming up. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.
I like that this was the episode where you were going to come in hot, and I probably went up to 12 for like a long stretch of this episode. Like, I think the joke of like, oh, Patrick's the one who's going to be angry is going to be a pretty funny joke.
I was actually calm enough that I was trying to balance it out with, like, hey, a lot of good happened today, too.
Yeah.
The difference is I show my frustration and aggravation at the store.
Yeah, when you answer the phone, when you do the other stuff.
I mean, there's a lot of people. I didn't hang up on people, but
you were
abruptly ended phone calls.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, we're not risking losing business because these people aren't going to shop with us anyway.
Yeah.
And even
someone who will buy it from anybody anywhere could care less if they don't buy it from us.
But even the people that go to a store that is charging $48, they'll come get it from us, but still go back to the store for everything else.
Sure.
Like
as long as they're not charging $48.
We are not impressing anybody.
Yeah,
you said it. We're just suckers.
Yeah, we're sticking to our principles, but we're the only ones doing that. So what does it matter? Like, if you're the only one who feels like you're taking the high road, then you are just a sucker.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not proving anything to anyone. You're getting taken advantage of.
it used to, like, I used to say, well, it's so we can sleep at night. I don't sleep well at all because I'm worried about all of these things.
Yeah, because I'm poor. You know who sleeps well? People who aren't poor.
People whose mattresses are just stuffed with cash.
Yeah. People who don't have to worry.
Actually, they probably sleep pretty badly. That's not a lot of support.
Yeah, it's true. It's not memory foam, certainly.
Maybe if it's all just gold coins, it'll like retain its shape.
It's even worse.
No, but you can lay into it and like you settle into a little divot
Oh, no, that's terrible for your back. Oh, gosh, no.
Gold is a soft metal. I've been told.
Okay.